The diner smelled faintly of coffee and grilled cheese, the kind of comforting aroma that made people feel safe after a long day. Outside, the rain came down in lazy, uneven sheets, sliding down the windows and blurring the world beyond. Inside, warm light spilled over the tables, bouncing off chrome napkin holders and red leather booths. It was one of those quiet weeknight evenings when people just wanted a simple meal and a soft place to sit. Michael pushed the door open with one hand, his other hand resting gently on his son Noah's shoulder. They had been out late at the baseball field, and now both were soaked and hungry. Noah was 9, full of life, his sneakers squeaking on the tiled floor as they walked in. "Can we get pancakes even though it's dinner time?" he asked, looking up at his dad with that spark of mischief that always made Michael smile. "Pancakes it is," Michael said, giving the hostess a nod as they were led to a corner booth. He liked this place because it was small, family-run, and quiet. The kind of place where the waitresses knew regulars by name. Tonight, however, he noticed something different as soon as they sat down. The waitress who came over wasn't the one he usually saw. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with tired eyes and a soft voice that trembled when she spoke. Her name tag read, Emily. She smiled politely, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Can I get you folks started with something to drink?" she asked, her tone automatic, practiced. "Hot chocolate for him," Michael said, gesturing toward Noah. "And coffee for me, please." Emily nodded, scribbling the order quickly before hurrying away. Michael watched her go, his brow furrowing slightly. Something about her movements felt tense, not rushed from busyness, but from anxiety. She kept glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to walk in. At first, he brushed it off. Maybe she was just having a rough shift. Everyone had those days, but the longer they sat there, the more he noticed. Every few minutes, Emily's eyes darted toward the door, the front entrance, the back hallway leading to the kitchen, even the emergency exit near the restrooms. Her hands trembled when she poured coffee at the counter. When another waitress passed by, Emily flinched slightly, as though startled by a whisper. Michael felt a tightness grow in his chest. "Dad," Noah said between bites of his pancakes once they arrived. "Why does the lady look scared?" Michael's gaze shifted to Emily, who was now standing by the counter, nervously folding napkins. He hadn't realized Noah had noticed too. Kids were perceptive, maybe more than adults. "I don't know, buddy," he said softly. "Maybe she's just tired." But he didn't believe his own words. After a few minutes, Emily returned to check on them. "Everything okay here?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Everything's perfect," Michael said. "You doing all right?" Her eyes flicked to him, then away almost instantly. "Yeah, just. Long day." The lie hung in the air, thin and fragile. Michael smiled gently, not pushing further, but the way she kept wringing the hem of her apron told him there was more. A moment later, a tall man entered the diner, his jacket dripping rainwater. He scanned the room with sharp, restless eyes until they landed on Emily. Her entire posture stiffened, the color drained from her face. Michael noticed the subtle tremor in her hands as she pretended to clean a nearby table. The man didn't sit, he just watched her for a moment before stepping outside again, lighting a cigarette under the awning. Michael's instincts screamed. He had seen that look before, not the man's, but the woman's. The quiet panic of someone trapped, pretending everything was fine. He'd seen it years ago when he was still a cop, before he'd left the force to raise Noah after his wife passed away. He had learned to read fear the way others read words on a page. When Emily brought the check, her hand brushed against the edge of the table. It trembled so hard that the paper fluttered to the floor. Michael picked it up and held it out to her. "Here you go," he said quietly. "You sure you're safe, miss?" She froze. For the briefest second, her mask slipped. Her eyes filled with raw fear, then she shook her head quickly. "Please, just pay at the counter," she whispered. Michael nodded, letting it go for now. He didn't want to make things worse for her. But his mind was already working, pieces sliding into place. He paid, left a tip larger than usual, and took Noah by the hand. As they stepped out into the rain, he saw the man again, leaning against a dark car parked near the alley. His cigarette glowed faintly in the shadows. When Emily came out to take the trash, the man straightened and spoke to her in a low voice. She flinched. He grabbed her arm, not hard enough to draw attention, but enough to make her wince. Michael felt a pulse of anger surge through him. He wanted to step in right then, but Noah was beside him. He couldn't risk his son's safety, so he watched carefully, memorizing every detail, the man's face, his license plate, the way Emily's eyes darted toward the exit like a trapped bird. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. Rain still tapped against the window, soft and steady, but his thoughts were restless. He replayed the scene in his head, the fear, the glances, the silent plea hidden behind Emily's forced smile. He'd seen domestic violence cases before, victims too afraid to ask for help. He remembered one woman in particular who hadn't survived because no one had noticed in time. The next day, he drove Noah to school, then found himself turning toward the diner again. He didn't plan it. His car just went there. It was mid-morning, quiet, only a few customers inside. Emily was there, serving coffee. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw him, but she managed a faint smile. "Morning," he said gently. "Mind if I sit?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Of course." He ordered a coffee and watched her move behind the counter. There was a new bruise on her wrist, faint but visible. He waited until the place was nearly empty before speaking softly. "That man last night, does he hurt you?" Her eyes darted around to make sure no one was listening. "Please," she whispered, "you shouldn't get involved. I used to be a police officer," he said quietly. "You don't have to tell me everything. But if you're in danger, I can help you." Tears welled in her eyes. She looked at him for a long moment, then shook her head, as if fighting against herself. "He'll find me," she murmured. "He always does. Not if you let me help," Michael said firmly, but gently. She took a shaky breath. "His name is Ryan. He's my ex. I left him 2 months ago after he hurt me. I moved here, changed jobs, tried to start over. But he found out where I work. He comes here almost every night, watches me, waits for me outside. I can't go to the police. He said if I do, he'll hurt my sister." Michael's heart sank. He wanted to reach across the table, to promise her everything would be okay, but promises meant nothing unless backed by action. "Emily, listen to me. You deserve to be safe. I can help you leave quietly. Tonight, I know people who can make sure he doesn't find you." She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the coffee pot. "What about my sister? We'll call her, make sure she's safe too. I can have someone check on her before we do anything." For the first time, she let out a faint, shaky laugh, not from humor, but disbelief that someone was actually offering to help. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because someone once helped me," Michael said. "And because my son noticed you were scared before I did. He asked why you looked sad. I don't want him growing up thinking we should ever look away when someone's in trouble." That evening, Michael returned as planned. He parked across the street, engine off, eyes on the diner's door. He'd already contacted an old friend still on the force, someone he trusted. They agreed to keep watch from a distance and intervene when necessary. Emily came out after her shift, clutching a small bag. The man was waiting again, leaning against his car. But this time, when he reached for her, Michael was already moving. "Hey," he barked, crossing the street with steady, measured steps. "Leave her alone." Ryan turned, sneering. "This your business, old man?" "It is now." Ryan took a step forward, fists clenched. But before he could say another word, headlights flooded the alley, a police car rolling slowly into view. The officer inside, Michael's friend, stepped out calmly. "Everything all right here?" Ryan froze. His arrogance faltered. He stammered something about just talking, then turned and stalked away, slamming his car door. The officer followed him long enough to get his license and record a statement. Emily stood trembling beside Michael, tears mixing with the rain. "It's over," he said softly. "You're safe now." But it wasn't truly over. It took weeks of paperwork, protection orders, and late-night calls before Emily could finally breathe freely again. Michael helped her connect with a women's shelter, then with a friend who offered her a place to stay out of town. He made sure her sister was safe too. On her last day in the city, she stopped by the diner one final time. Michael was there, sitting in his usual booth with Noah, who was drawing superheroes on a napkin. She smiled, this time genuinely. "I wanted to say thank you," she said, "for not looking away." "You don't need to thank me," Michael replied. "Just live your life. That's thanks enough." She nodded, eyes glistening. "You and your son gave me something I'd forgotten existed. Hope." Noah grinned up at her. "Bye, Miss Emily. Don't forget us." She laughed softly, brushing away a tear. Never. Months later, Michael received a postcard in the mail. No return address, just a photograph of a small seaside town and a short message: "I'm free. Thank you for helping me find the exit." He placed the card on the fridge, next to Noah's drawings. For a long moment, he stood there, staring at it, feeling a quiet peace settle in his heart. That night, Noah climbed into his lap with a book and said, "Dad, do you think we'll ever see her again?" Michael smiled faintly. "Maybe, but even if we don't, she's where she's meant to be." Sometimes helping someone means letting them go. Outside, the rain began again, gentle and steady. Inside, the diner light across the street glowed warmly, a reminder that sometimes, even in the darkest corners, kindness can still find its way, and one small act of courage can open the door to someone's freedom. And though Emily was gone, her story stayed with them, a quiet echo of bravery, trust, and the power of a single moment when a stranger decided to care.